I'm Narendra Nath. I'm the Chief Executive of Pradhan right now, and been one of the board members of the RRA network as well. So we work on livelihoods and community organization in various parts of the country, predominantly in the tribal belt in central and eastern India. So tribal agriculture has been predominantly rain-fed, and when you say tribal agriculture and tribal communities, the imagery that comes into your mind are these remote hamlets and villages that are towards more or less near to the forest fringes, hilly and undulating terrain. So that is the typical scenario in which tribal agriculture happens, and that agriculture is because of the remoteness of the geographies they are in, and these are all the places where development and interventions have reached very late or have not reached at all. So these are places where large-scale irrigation programs also have not reached. So in a typically, let's say, a state like Jharkhand, where Pradhan works, it's about 10 to 11% of the land, the arable land in Jharkhand would be irrigated. So 90% of it is unirrigated. So, and unirrigated in the sense, there's no predictable irrigation sources available there, and 90% of the communities are dependent on the rains for their agriculture, and the primary source of livelihoods is also agriculture. So this is the conditions under which the tribal communities do agriculture, and and the farmers are also either small or marginal, in a sense they have less than 1 hectare of land. Average holding would be 1.5 or less than 2 acres. That is the kind of land holding the farmers have, and this is the condition around which agriculture has to be conceptualized or thought about in these areas. And it will not be wrong to say across most of India, agriculture is of this nature: smallholder and rain-fed. In tribal, it is additional aspects are that there's a hilly undulating terrain, and also there's a lot of forest areas and other commons in that area. So you need to, when you look at policies around creating, reforming farming for the tribal communities, you need to look at what are they doing right now. So if you look at a tribal household, their livelihoods would be a portfolio of 2 or 3 major activities. Primarily would be agriculture, but as agriculture as I just described. Second would be a reasonable stock of livestock. There are also the desi goats, desi chicken. So the backyard poultry and backyard goat rearing, etc. This is another set of activities which contribute about 25 to 30% of their household income. So that is very important part of their larger agriculture. And a third very important component, which you will not find in other areas, is the access to forests or utilization of the forests and the non-timber forest produce for their livelihood needs. That also becomes part of their livelihoods portfolio. So any policy that we create for tribal agriculture needs to take into consideration at least these 3, if not others, other farm enterprise or non-farm enterprises in the village, etc. And this is what the Green Revolution, the thought or the Green Revolution paradigm does not at all take into consideration the realities of the tribal. So therefore we need to look at tribal agriculture, or when you say a new agriculture agenda for the country, needs to picturize tribal agriculture in a very different manner and look at the multiple sources of livelihoods they have. Reforming tribal agriculture has been a major agenda for the major part of the larger rain-fed agriculture agenda in the country, and RRA in being the predominant network and predominant policy body that is trying to look at creating different policy formulations around agriculture in the country. The belief in the RRA is predominantly the agriculture in India is rain-fed. Therefore, Indian agriculture policy has to be around. At the core of Indian agriculture needs to look at rain-fed agriculture as its core. And under rain-fed agriculture, tribal agriculture or the farming practices of the tribals is holds a very important space. One, sheer volumes of it, about 10% of Indian population is tribal, and more importantly, the lessons that the tribal agriculture gives us, the farming system approach that the tribal agriculture, if you really look at it in a scientific way, the very interesting mix of farm, livestock and forest that you see in, so basically looking at your farmland, your larger natural resources and also your animal resources, together looking at that as contributing to your livelihoods, is what I think the idea that needs to be taken across the rain-fed areas. So in a sense, there's a lot of lessons that you can draw from the way tribal agriculture is structured for rest of agriculture in the country. The comprehensive pilots were a set of projects that the RRA network had given out in terms of experiencing the various. See, the RRA network has multiple, legs on which the whole the rain-fed agriculture concept has been created. So more than one, maybe 3 or 4 of those ideas were experimented in a single plot of land or a single geography, in order to see how the different components in rain-fed agriculture works together. So the areas where Pradhan had experimented in our Bengal pilot, the comprehensive pilot that we had done as part of our RRA membership, we had tried to mix the, as I said earlier, agriculture and livestock. That's one kind of mix. Second is large scale natural resource management processes in order to enhance availability of subsurface water and moisture for crops. So using rainwater more judiciously and conserving rainwater. So that was another component we had built in. So basically water used for protective irrigation as well as water used for your as subsurface source for your major crops, because there was no irrigation facilities available. And the third was using of agroecological practices like SRI and direct seeded rice, and third was using one is paddy cultivation through SRI practices, and also millets and pulses, oil seeds and vegetables as a larger food basket. So these were multiple of 3 or 4 of the ideas that we have tried to work together, and it gave very useful lessons to Pradhan that this actually work. We need to so comprehensively. So if you're talking about livelihoods of poor people, which is what primarily Pradhan's concern is, we need to necessarily look at their resources in a comprehensive manner. So we have now continued with that practice. The comprehensive pilot is over, but when after that period is over, we have actually added many more components to it and actually created much larger comprehensive. We did much larger set of comprehensive pilots, and now we have an agriculture approach as part of our livelihoods programming, which we call as comprehensive livelihoods, which actually is a take on the original comprehensive pilots of RRA. Here we have actually added more layers to it. We also talked about the gender inequalities in the household, and we also talking about inclusion of the very poor people. So we added few more features into it, but the idea of the comprehensive pilots is has been institutionalized in Pradhan. Pradhan is a member of the RRA network, and we have been a kind of active member in the RRA network because we believe that collaborative efforts are required if we want to strengthen rain-fed agriculture in India. I mean, you're talking about a new policy paradigm, and policy paradigm has to happen from large-scale demonstration of what works and what does not work, and then active policy advocacy in whatever forum you can get. It could be at the local district level or at the agriculture ministry level, the ministries of rural development or agriculture or forest, etc. It's not within the capacity or the capability of one organization to achieve this. Therefore, RRA network is a very natural reaction to this larger concern, not just Pradhan feels, but I think all the people in the network today, we all feel very strongly that it is time for a paradigm shift in our agriculture in the country. The crisis that the country faces today, or the large-scale farm suicides that we face today, it's all because of a particular kind of policy regime. and that regime has to change, which we call the green revolution paradigm, etc., which is very capital intensive, which is, you know, highly, public system oriented, etc., where, but the government is now, as the government is withdrawing, we are not empowering the farmers enough to reach out to the market. So we need to have other different ways of empowering farmers, but first reach out to the farmer and gradually change the agriculture paradigm that they are following. And so Pradhan is in its own level trying to do it in our villages, in our tribal communities where we are working with. But along with, when we work with a network such as RRA network, our reach and our spread goes to much wider areas, and it's much more heard in the policy networks. And second, we're also trying to create a lot of partnership projects in order to demonstrate in scale how these comprehensive ideas work. And so in all the states that we work in West Bengal, in Odisha, in Chhattisgarh, or in Jharkhand, and in other Madhya Pradesh. So other states also, we are trying to create large-scale pilots or other scale-up projects, not even pilots, actually much larger scale projects, by drawing resources from the public systems, from the ministries' resources, maybe rural development or agriculture, and to demonstrate this idea of how rain-fed agriculture can be strengthened, and how using rain-fed agriculture methodologies the farmers can be much better off. So there is a messaging at two ways. One is to educate the farmer that what kind of practices you follow, so that you get much better incomes from your farming. And second, to convince the government that yes, it is possible. Therefore, your resources need to be allocated to this particular way of doing things. So that again is not an effort that can be done by one organization like Pradhan. So therefore, it's but natural that we need to work together. So we're working very strongly with the RRA network, and we're trying to take this across to the governments and other stakeholders as well. So we're trying to educate donors about this idea. So we've had some reasonable kind of success. There are some donors who are very convinced. You have a lot of civil society organizations who are convinced about it, and then we have the many state governments which are very convinced about it. So we're trying to create a groundswell of let's say good examples of how rain-fed agriculture can be demonstrated.